Kösem Sultan, the Queen Regent, Mother Queen, the Great Mother Queen, was the most powerful woman in not only the Ottoman history, but also in the history of Islam. Even though she is much less known than Roxolene, Kösem Sultan ruled the Ottoman Empire directly for many years as the Queen Regent to her sons, Sultans Murad, Ibrahim, and her grandson, Mehmet IV, and was the formal and informal head of the Ottoman Empire for almost 30 years. Before we begin, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Kösem, or Anastasia as she was called back then, was born in a Greek island. Her father was a priest, and it is known that she had a good education in her childhood. Her life changed upside down when she was either taken as a prisoner or sold into slavery by her family. Ottoman governor of Bosnia gifted young Anastasia to the imperial palace. There she received education as all the other imperial women, and she was given a new name, Mahpeyker, meaning moon-faced, for her beauty. She would later take the name Kösem, meaning the leader, as her power grew. At the age of 15, she was married to Sultan Ahmed I, who was 16 himself. They had 9 children together. Though Ahmed and Kösem's marriage was never as passionate as Süleyman and Roxolena's, as Ahmed constantly took other lovers and fathered 14 more children from them. Kösem's story is not a story of love, but power. Sultan Ahmed died of typhus at the age of 27, and Kösem was made a widow at the young age of 26, never to be married again, as was the palace customs. Kösem and her 9 children were sent to the old palace to grow old and die with other women of the old sultans. But she hadn't even started her story yet. The throne was succeeded by Mustafa I, Ahmed's brother. However, Mustafa had mental problems. His reign was short and was ended by a Janissary revolt. Janissaries proceeded to make Ahmed's 14-year-old son, Osman, the Sultan. Osman was Ahmed's son from another woman who had died shortly after his birth, and stepson of Kösem. Osman and Kösem eventually grew a maternal bond between them, and Sultan Osman II constantly visited Kösem to get her advice on matters of state. Yet Osman's reign was also short, despite his young age, though definitely not uneventful. He was dethroned by the Janissaries, who learned about Osman's plots to disband them, and murdered the 18-year-old Sultan. Ahmed's brother, Mustafa, once again ascended to the throne, but his reign was once again very short due to his mental illness. He was overthrown a year later, in 1623. After many years, it was finally Kösem's time. Her 11-year-old son Murad was the oldest member of the dynasty, and ascended to the throne. Of course, under the guidance of his mother. Due to Murad's age, a first happened in the Ottoman history, and Kösem became the Sultan Regent of the empire, becoming the legal head of the Ottomans. She entered the Topkapı Palace with a massive parade and began her rule that would last many years long after her son's death. She quickly set on work. The imperial affairs were in a massive chaos after years of mentally unstable Mustafa and inexperienced rule of Osman II. The treasury was empty, the cabinet was filled with incompetent ministers, and Janissaries were used to overthrowing any sultan they wished. The first problem to solve was the Janissaries. They had assured that they would not demand a raise during Murad's succession, but they changed their minds shortly after. They started protesting, demanding more pay. Yet the treasury was empty. Though Kösem doubted that this was enough reason to proceed the undisciplined Janissary masses. She quickly found a way out though. Kösem ordered all the silverware and gold furniture in the palace to be molten and given to the Janissaries as payment. The Janissaries were dealt with for the moment. Now it was time to deal with the corrupt cabinet. The head of the cabinet, the Grand Vizier, was Kemankeş Ali Pasha. His appointments would constantly clash with Kösem's, as he was as keen on ruling the empire as the Sultan Regent herself. He constantly took bribes when making appointments and filled the cabinet with its supporters. However, Kösem was not yet powerful enough to take on Kemankeş Pasha. In mid-1620s, governor of Erzurum, Abbasi Mehmed Pasha, started a rebellion, vowing to avenge Sultan Osman. He executed all the Janissaries in his governorate. His rebellion was supported by other governors in Anatolia, who resented the Janissaries, bringing his force up to 50,000. Shortly after that, governor of Baghdad revolted. This revolt led to a Safavid invasion of Iraq. Baghdad was captured by the Safavid armies in 1624. Kemankesh Pasha failed to suppress rebellions and repel Safavid attacks. This and his corruption plummeted his reputation among the Janissary. Now, decided Kösem, was the time. She summoned Kemankesh Pasha to the palace for an occasional meeting. When Kemankesh Pasha entered the council room, executioners jumped on him and he was strangled to death. Kösem instead appointed one of her supporters as the Grand Vizier and sent him to suppress the revolt. Her armies defeated the rebels led by Abbazian and advanced into Iraq. Northern Iraq was recaptured and the Safavid army was beaten near Baghdad. However, the city itself could not be captured as the Grand Vizier was forced to retreat due to a Janissary revolt within the army. The Safavid commander, Karaçkay Han, had already signed the surrender of Baghdad when he heard that the Ottoman army was forced to retreat by the Janissaries. He quickly summoned the Ottoman diplomats and tore the treaty, saying, "One does not give land to those that flee." Ottoman army, not completely successful, returned to the capital. However, rather ironically, Janissaries were outraged at the result. They demanded heads of the many palace officials and besieged the palace. When their demands were not met, they stormed in and lynched those they blamed for the defeat. This caused the 20-year-old Sultan Murad to get involved in the state affairs more actively. Kösem's first regency of 9 years was ended after Murad personally took over the helm. Kösem was a charitable monarch in those 9 years. Charities she funded fed 15,000 people every day. She would walk in the streets in disguise and talk to the common people about their problems, find those that are actually in need and help them personally. She had also founded a charity that provided dowry to orphaned girls who could not get married due to poverty. Kösem was also extremely generous towards her personal servants. Every 2 years, she would change her maids, marrying them to palace officials. Not only she kept the bureaucracy relatively stable, but also did a good job raising her son for the throne. Murad became the most proclaimed Ottoman Sultan of the 17th century. He subdued the Janissaries under his iron rule and led the Ottoman armies into the old Safavid capital of Tabriz and recaptured Baghdad. Kösem, although not being the head of the state, still held tremendous power behind the scenes. When Murad wanted to execute his siblings to secure the throne, Kösem openly clashed with her son and ended up getting what she wanted. At the end, Murad was unable to execute his siblings. This might have proved the wisest intervention in the Ottoman history, as Murad also died at a young age without male heirs, leaving only his brother Ibrahim behind. Kösem's first regency had ended. Now the second one was beginning, with the reign of her second son.